Dear mentors, in this video we'll talk a little bit about reflection in mathematics. Our goal is to find some tools that can help us students reflect more in mathematics and also gain autonomy. So it's important to understand that we have two goals in mind. One is mathematically speaking, how can I reflect more in a mathematical way? And the other is a little more general, how can I be just more autonomous in the way I think, whether it's doing math or other types of academic work, education, or even in daily life. So it's important to understand that these two concepts will of course overlap, but we actually have to find tools for both and separate them. And there are two concepts that are central to our discussion, which are metacognition and self-efficacy. So this video will talk about a little bit more about these two concepts. And what we really need to do is to establish some routines, or you could call them habits of mind, which is kind of ironic because we're talking about reflecting, and you may have this idea that reflecting is just maybe sitting for hours and thinking about philosophical problems, but actually reflecting, as many other activities, it has routines. So you can actually do things to put yourself in a better position to be a better, reflecting person. So let's talk first about metacognition. And so metacognition is thinking about thinking. That's how you could define it. And it's also defined as just reflections about the process of learning, your own personal process of learning, which can happen before preparing for it, during, when you notice things, or actually after the learning. And it should happen. It should always happen. It should be kind of like a cycle. And metacognition has both very general aspects of how am I thinking, or very specific details on, in this problem, in this part, which decisions did I make? Why did I do this? Etc. So remember, we're looking for routines or habits of mind that can boost our reflection in mathematics. And so one way you can activate metacognition, or the thinking about thinking, is review your own work, and that's a habit. So as a mentor, you could ask students to actually read your own work, or of course the work of others. Compare solutions. Once two students have solutions, different solutions, how can they be compared? This activates reflection. Bring past experiences, and you can do this with questions, or you can just remind students, what did you do in the previous problems? Can you think of which experiences have you had before tackling these type of problems? And that becomes a habit. You just then naturally think of past experiences. Thinking out loud, and you can do this when you're explaining things. You just don't explain as a presentation or as a formal thing, but you just think that you're alone, and you just think out loud. You're just making your mind more visible to the student. And then you want the student to model that, right? So you want that the student imitates you. You can ask him, think it out loud. I want to hear you. Pretend I'm not here. I want to hear you think. And that activates reflection. And finally, consult a list of strategies, of heuristics, like problem-solving techniques that can actually help solve a problem. So when you have this list of strategies, it may be kind of artificial, and you may think that's not the way mathematicians do math. But actually, mathematicians, they have this list of strategies. They just have a mental list. So that's a habit in mathematicians. What we invite you to do is actually have this physical list of strategies and asking the kids to use it. That activates metacognition. And so the second important concept for reflection in mathematics, and remember it's about building autonomy, is the concept of self-efficacy, which is the belief that one can achieve a certain goal. It's me actually believing that I can perform well in a certain task. Whether the task is, good or bad, in the sense that whether it's going to make me feel good or bad, it's a different thing. So self-efficacy is not much about the value of that task, how it makes you a better person or something like that, but it's just literally, am I going to be able to solve it? Do I believe I can solve it? And so the factors that actually increase the self-efficacy are personal success. The more you have success at tasks, the more you believe you can perform well. But actually, there's some more. Watching others succeed, it's also some factor that boosts your self-efficacy. When I see a peer that is similar to me in a task that is similar to my task, and I see him succeed, and I see that he actually performs well, then I'm going to go like, I can actually do it as well. Encouragement from teachers. So as mentors, we ask you to encourage your kids. Don't do fake encouragements that you can solve all problems, but be realistic. Okay, this problem, I'm sure you can at least do these type of things. So encouragement in a realistic and positive way. And finally, positive and relaxed mood helps self-efficacy. When you're very anxious or when there's many threats, our brain just sometimes shuts down. So you want a very good environment. And in other videos, we talk about this, how to make a good learning and positive learning environment. Self-efficacy is a big deal because it actually affects your motivation and your performance. So we want to actually have as a goal, build self-efficacy in students, which is not an easy task. And so here are some specific tools that we can use. First, cooperative learning, learning with others, doing tasks that require me to cooperate with others. And this should be clear because, as we said, watching others succeed is a big booster of this self-efficacy. Also, short-term attainable goals. As a mentor, you don't want to put goals that look very far away or that they're very vague or very complicated. You want the goals that are short and that you can see actually the steps to attain them. And in other videos, we talk about formative assessment in mathematics, which is assessment for learning. And one key component is that the goals should be realistic, challenging, but realistic. Also, help verbalize a plan and steps can actually improve self-efficacy. And finally, compare the performance of a student, not to the other students, but to the goals that you set. So it's not the best practice to say who performed the best in your table, because even though that may boost self-efficacy for the kids that performed the best, the kids that did not perform the best, it may lower it. So it's very difficult. It's very dangerous. What you rather want to do is take a student and say, what was the goal that we set? Did we achieve that goal? Let's compare it to your goal. That's more, that's more healthy for self-efficacy. So I hope these two concepts are useful to you as a mentor, and also these tools and strategies that we reviewed, so that you can boost reflection and self-efficacy in students. Thank you.